I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar, all about release management. And I'm happy to actually, introduce our speaker today, Jossif Tomash. And, just a brief about him. He started his professional career in engineering in the year 2008. And he has focused on release management for the past 9 of those 12 years. His past experience includes working with Skype, later Microsoft, and GroupMe to deliver app updates and new releases to millions of users. He is now focused on shipping high quality Truecaller app updates to over 200 million monthly users every week. That is a heavy profile. Wow. So if you'd like to get in touch, to know how to orchestrate app releases on scale, this is your person. So Jossif, over to you. All the best. And yeah, let's enjoy the 1 hour.
All right. Thank you for introduction, Mercy. And I'm very happy here to be part of talks at Andela and share knowledge with all of you. I've been running release management at scale in different companies, including Skype, later Microsoft, GroupMe, and now Truecaller. And I'm excited to share learnings from my experience with all of you guys. My team worked hard to build a release process at Truecaller, and it is a real pleasure to see what we have achieved as a company in help with release management. Not to mention that we are constantly improving the process and scaling it up to support fast-growing organization and the user base that we have. I myself, I'm very interested in process improvements, such and automation. I'm always trying to unblock people and enable delivery to happen. Release process is a very important part of your business, and when played well, can be a real game changer. As I see, it is a collection of tools, processes, and practices that put together enable your team to focus on delivery while maintaining quality. A lot of things will be covered in this presentation. I really worked hard to put many things together, but also keep it simple. I can probably talk about that for hours, and feel free to reach to me if you have any questions or you want some advices. I'm really been enjoying what I've been doing those years, and I've been trying to build that as a proper discipline. So an overview about what we are going to talk today. I'm going to be briefly talking about Truecaller for those of you who haven't heard about it. I'm going to talk about how to create order from chaos with release management and why it is important. I will cover how to build release tracks so the process is scalable and maintainable. I will mention some tips about how to organize testing in release management, important topic that I will touch is feature flags and their role in release process. And finally, my favorite topic, automation and all the opportunities that it gives to us. In the end, we will have a short Q&A. So going fast, Truecaller is a Swedish company founded in 2009 in Stockholm, Sweden, where I am based as well, by two students, Nami and Alan. The app began when the story began when co-founders were just students and they wanted to create a service that would easily identify incoming calls from and filter unknown numbers or unwanted calls. And today, Truecaller is loved by over 230 million monthly active users around the world, and it is the leading app for caller ID and spam blocking. This day, it has much more than just call and spam protection. It has a full set of messaging services. It has voice over IP calling. It has payments in some regions, and we are adding many more. So it really became a platform, and that's how we see Truecaller in the future, to be a platform to protect you and help you in day-to-day operations. Some other impressive metrics are we have 26 billion calls identified and blocked yearly. And recently we have reached and passed 500 million app installs milestone. We have multiple offices around the world. Global headquarters is in Stockholm. We have Africa office in Nairobi and India headquarters in Bangalore. And we have 2 more offices in India, in Delhi and Mumbai. And our top markets are India and then following Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. Out of 230 million monthly users, we have more than 50 million users coming from Africa, from which we identify 1.1 billion calls per month. Out of that, 100 million, so around 10%, are spam calls. So that's the offerings we have right now for you guys. Create order from chaos with release management. In this part, I will try to summarize why release management is important and what value can it bring to you. Why you want to integrate the release process and release management. First of all, it is all about stability. Fewer emergency or priority incidents and bugs in production, and of course, improved quality over time. Flexibility allows you to incorporate emergency fixes and change requests and ship them to users quickly and in a controlled fashion. Fast feedback. Bugs found and fixed earlier. It might be your internal alpha tracks, or it might be beta testing, but the fact is, and the important fact is, that you try to shift finding bugs and issues from your production environment to an early stage of your development. Smooth rollout. No need to patch production versions with multiple crash fixes. Better predictability of release. Release management enables you to work with a proper planning. As the releases are shorter and smaller, the whole process is more predictable and structured, and it means higher throughput over time. Easy, and that's one of my favorite ones. I'm working a lot with engineers in day-to-day job, and I think that's a brilliant thing that release management brings to people. The engineers are not stressing out. Simplified coordination. It enables a simplified communication between different teams. It takes a lot of stress out from the process. Would you have a set big releases of just some strict deadlines? And the last is simple. As I mentioned, shorter iterations means smaller scope and means that just fewer things can go wrong. Change in mindset. That topic I want to touch a little bit more. Frequent version updates reduce stress created by hard deadlines and big deliveries. Many times I've seen that people are really stressing out when it comes to a big release containing multiple features, a lot of bug fix improvements, new design. A lot of pressure is created just because of that. And this means that not only they are stressing out to deliver things in time, but also most probably going to be stressing out while it's shipped to users. A big release means a lot of mistakes to happen, a lot of bugs to pop up, a lot of things to go wrong. And that also means that there are going to be some hot fixes, patches on top of that, where developers are going to be dragged into stressing even more, now realizing that they need to fix a lot of things while release just happened. Release process builds in multiple safety checks. And it is flexible enough to create this confidence when releasing software. And that helps developers to, and the company to release in a controlled fashion in a maintainable way. User feedbacks, as I told, are addressed more quickly. It also creates a very good way of changing stuff as we go. The modern development is rapidly changing. The design that you may have right now in your app may be irrelevant in half a year. Features that you are creating may change as you learn more from users. And you need a way and you need a process to enable you to ship fast, ship frequently, update frequently, but maintain quality. And the release management is all about that. It also enforces some standardization that might be more relevant when you're working at a scale or in a bigger company, but it is important topic. While you have many contributors to your code base, many teams are doing things differently, and that may end up at some point to have to be a conflict to block you to deliver stuff quick. In that case, release management is a central point that is trying to find the common ways and common approaches and get this consensus, have discussions with them, get this consensus how things should be done, how things should be packed and structured. Code is dynamically evolving. So you don't have a code that you shipped once and you forgot about that and it created a lot of technical debt. It's constantly evolving. You are updating your code. You are redesigning it to make it more simple, more clean. If you don't need, you remove the code. It is something, your app becomes a live app with changing code over time. All that creates a healthy environment for developers to work and focus on what they really like, developing software. Here, I would like to go through some achievements in Truecaller. I've been in Truecaller for a few years now, and I built the process from scratch. And it's not a big team operating right now. In the team we have myself, and then I have a QA lead who is helping me with overall testing in Truecaller, and especially when it comes to release testing. And we have one more release engineer helping me out with tasks. And in such a small team, I think we've achieved a lot. And of course, we achieved that not only ourselves, we engaged with other teams, we engaged with management, we engaged with developers to get those stuff. And one thing here on the green side, on the left side, you can see that when we started, it was only 4 teams in 4 development teams in Truecaller contributing to code base to Android and iOS apps that we have. At the moment, we have 13 teams, and it is scaling up. We've been working with one outsourced testing company. Now we have 2 teams and 2 sites to manage. So we scaled up this process as well. What I'm really proud of is that we fully automated the release pipeline, and we automated the basic app performance metrics. Altogether, we have delivered more than 170 release updates. We have enabled more than 200 features by enabling the flags. We have onboarded to release process more than 75 more people during over those years. And all that, we keep maintaining a good app rate. We have around 4.5 stars in the store at the moment. That I think is a quite good result considering how many users we have, and we have 99.8 crash-free users. There have been some things happening over those years as well. We had to ship 4 hotfix releases where things were found only in production, or it was not possible to find them earlier. Some incidents happened and some things that we had to hotfix things. So no way you should treat it as like ideal solution. Things will happen, but what is important that with that process you will be prepared to handle those things much better than you do now. All right, building your release tracks, get your ducks in a row. Maintaining release tracks is important to enable your development to run fast. Here I will give you some tips what you should pay attention to. First of all, you need to define the audience of your tracks, of your release tracks. Are you going to be testing with some external parties? How your internal testing going to be structured? How you're going to be shipping to production? What's the state of one track to transition to another? And you also need to think how often do you want to update? Obviously, it should be a balance between updating too often, but delivering regularly some value and some deliveries to the users. Think over how one track transitions to another, automate the delivery and communication. So you don't need to do it manually every time, because then it becomes a very hard task to do. Communication is important. So all your users, would it be internal users, third-party users, regression testers, or production users, understand what's in scope of that update. Otherwise, they may question why to do it. So here you have a classic track schema that we also use in Truecaller. So going back, so on that image here, at the gray arrow, you can see it's so-called alpha week in Truecaller, where every workday we have a delivery. We have a new alpha, a new daily build created in the end of the day. It's a snapshot of everything that just been added to the code base. And the audience for alpha track are internal people, internal developers, internal testers, management, designers, so they can really touch and play with stuff you've just pushed out and give you feedback in case if they find something. From our side, we're also looking into alpha track to see if there are any things popping up. However, this track is more considered to be a development track, so it's more likely to be caught by developers or testers themselves. In the end of the week, the alpha track becomes a beta. It's a beta build created out of that work that's been pushed to alpha. And beta, for us in Truecaller, it means not only pushing it to beta community that we have built throughout the years, but also testing with regression testers. And I will cover it in other slides. In the end of beta week, the build is promoted to production, and then we roll it out to production by enabling it to some percentage of users, checking back to back all the stats that we have, and then going up to 100% when we feel confident about the production release. And if you see a broader picture of all the tracks, you can see that every week we are repeating all the same over and over again. So at 1 week, minimum that you have for one app is 3 tracks. It's the internal alpha track, it's the beta testing, and it is production rollout. Would you have 2 apps? Multiply to that. So all that is scalable with the process and can be maintained and handled. But it, of course, creates some need of someone or a team to take care of that. All right, going to the next slide. So automate the pipeline. Yes, automating the pipeline is quite important topic, and you need to take it seriously would you invest into release management. First of all, you need to build a scalable continuous integration system that will run your track pipelines, and it's easy also to expand. Would you need to anything to expand it to add some new functionality to the pipeline or add another app? And here I'm talking about building your artifacts, verifying your artifacts, running unit tests on your artifacts, running all kinds of automation that you have, uploading to stores, uploading artifacts to your external drive, creating a changelog. It's many things that you put together in the pipeline and automate it, so you don't need to do it manually. Master your skills on Git. You need to understand and be quite professional when it comes to working with Git or any other code management. As you're going to be working, there is a lot of branching, a lot of cherry picking, merging. You need to know all that stuff. Make sure you have a solid release versioning schema. You don't want to be in a situation when you cannot update your users because your versioning schema messed up and now you have published a version that's outside of the track or something like that. Define a versioning that you want to have for that app and keep it consistent. Automate daily alpha drops and internal communication. So you can communicate to your internal stakeholders what has been added. Be on top of the changelog in between alpha or beta drops. Invest into smooth internal distribution, so users internally or externally don't need to go to specific places to download the build. It should happen all automatically or even silently for them. Ensure there is one channel for incoming feedback and all feedback is triaged by respective people. So you are avoiding situations when the feedback is coming from multiple channels and then you are lost or it's duplicated. So it should be one channel for incoming feedback that you're gonna take care of. Automate continuous upload to app stores, even though you are not planned to ship it. Here, I mean, the app stores themselves are going through a set of changes all the time. New features are added to Play Store, to App Store. The new versions of the stores are added. The new stuff means that everything can break at some point. You are adding a lot of new stuff on your side, and they're adding a lot of things on their side. So they may, at some point, not work together. We have had situations when we were been uploading new builds, new release builds, and we got automatically rejected because by mistake we've enabled something wrong that's not compliant with the guidelines, or they've changed the way you need to upload. So automate that part and you will get those things earlier so you can fix it in time. Be proactive when it comes to new operation system updates on Android and iOS. Integrate with betas, preferably create a CI node that you will use for testing new betas. Many times new betas means that there will be conflict with your existing app that you need to comply for. And the earlier you find that the easier it's going to be to ship new version before the OS version goes live, right? Automate those routines like app updates, things that you're constantly touching, maybe some basic functional tests. So you can ensure that every alpha actually can be started, launched, logged in, do some stuff, so some basic use cases, and then log out. Automate database migration. If you have database in your app, that most apps have, automate the update from one version to another as you're going to be using database schema. Keep things consistent. Invest in setting up a release server. We use in Truecaller, we use a release server that helps us orchestrating all that. It fires the CI jobs. It triggers alerts. It starts all release checks at some particular point. Keep your build pipelines in code and host it in Git. Keeping your pipeline in code gives you a lot of advantages. You can easily read and understand what's inside the pipeline. It's much more expandable than setting up pipelines in UI. You have a nice history. And it creates a really nice workflow around that. Keep your release certificate on central location with enabled backups. This is quite important topic, to not lose your release certificate. You probably don't want to give release certificate to all of your developers. You want to have a central point where all the certificates are hosted, secured, central point, with also backups enabled. Because otherwise it's easy to break some stuff. The person can lose certificate and they will get into someone's hands. And so a lot of things may happen. Think about that. Visualize metrics, possibly in one place, and make them visible to everyone. Have a list of all third-party libraries that you're using, and also make sure to update with the new versions when they come. Prepare for incident escalations. Inform relevant teams and people about actions to be taken in case of emergency. So you need to prepare strategy, how you're going to be addressing emergency cases, how you're going to be addressing important bug fixes would they appear, and be ready to take some actions. Learn all analytics tools that you have in your company. I am involved a lot in many investigations where I need to understand the scope of the issue. I need to assess risk of incident. I need to assess number of people who's going to be affected by one or another change. And I really use a lot of analytics in Truecaller we have by querying different things and putting that all together. So both myself and management developers can assess risks and put them properly in place, mitigations in place. Make sure the features are assessed also from legal and privacy perspective. There are a lot of different regulatory aspects, like in Europe, you need to be compliant with GDPR. And more similar things are coming around the world. Be prepared for that. Have proper documentation and assessment done before it hits you. Create standard procedures for release routines, branching out, version tagging, cherry picking. Those things should be set on stone, and everyone should understand how that works under the hood of release process. How to organize app testing. Testing is a crucial part of release management, as it becomes part of every release delivery cycle. I will give you some examples and talk about the most important parts of it. If possible, hire a QA person. They will test your code on a daily basis and build up a knowledge base for your app by writing test cases. These test cases can be later automated or outsourced to be performed by third-party vendors. UI automation is an expensive thing. You should consider to hire a full-time engineer if you want to maintain it over time. Otherwise, in my experience, it's going to be very hard to maintain and keep working without any significant problems. By freeing up your internal testers, you are empowering them to focus more on things, on new code that's being added. By running frequent releases, you have to ensure the app regression test suite is performed. Create a list of 50, 100, you said the number of test cases, and run it on top devices. Do it before every release. An example, in our case, we do it in parallel with beta testing. You may rotate devices and operation system versions and those combinations in time to get as much coverage as you can. Another thing that you need to take into account that In order to get the process smooth, you probably should automate or look into automating some basics. Like you want to automate startup time. In time, as you're going to be adding more and more to your app, the startup time going to be increasing, and that will hit you at some point. So you want to measure it from release to release to understand when did it increase and investigate further what caused it. The same for memory and battery harness. For big heavy apps such as Truecaller, battery is quite important topic. As we are running on all kinds of devices, low profile devices, high-end devices, for low profile devices, it is important to run and save some battery. So we've automated that from release to release. We are tracking that to see if there are significant regressions. One thing to consider to automate is also app updates. You don't want your users crashing or having bad times when updating from another version. So automate app updates. It is not a very challenging, complicated task, but it will bring a lot of benefits. If you do localizations and translations in your project, automate translation verifications. We are using a third-party tool to get our localizations done by different people around the world. And sometimes, we are receiving, they do some typos, they write it wrong, and they can break the app doing that. So you may have to invest a day or two of developer time just to automate those basic verification checks. And then you can be sure that after importing new translations, your app is not broken. There are a lot of multiple online platforms that allow you to use remote devices. So if you don't have devices or you have limited set of devices, you can subscribe to those platforms to log in remotely to any device OS combination and test your stuff. Or you can do it in specific regions by with any other conditions like networking. They usually provide different kinds of networking and different tools for developers as well. The important topic is beta and production track and release process and testing. And beta testing is quite important part in Truecaller day-to-day life. We have a quite strong beta community, and I encourage you also to start building the beta community for you. Invite people to test your features, engage with beta testers, post what's inside the beta drop to cheer them up, and keep beta drops consistent as you release updates. Actively monitor vitals in beta, crashers, performance metrics, installations, reviews. All that may be very important before you go to production. I strongly advise you to integrate with crash reporting tools if you haven't done it before, and other app performance analytics tools such as Firebase. Firebase, I think, is a wonderful set of tooling that will enable you to do a lot of things and automate a lot of things inside your apps, whether it be Android or iOS. You may consider to enable additional logging in beta to get more diagnostics before while investigating one another issue. Definitely you should turn on all kinds of anomaly detections that those tools bring on. Learn how to read stack traces or teach people who's been looking into that how to do it. It definitely helps me, myself, in day-to-day. I am able to read stack traces, maybe not at the level when I can go and fix the code myself, but I can understand what's been happening there, and I can navigate through different teams to find relevant people who can address this issue and help fixing it. Actively work on resolving problems identified in beta. They will definitely scale up when you go to production. Try to assess the risk. This crash in beta, does it mean that it will fire up in million crashers in production or not? That's why you need a lot of insights, a lot of look from different angles to that issue. And of course, if you have such a process in place, the important part is that feature flag can be, or feature can be disabled before going to production. If you see or feel that something going on wrong during your testing, I think the right decision is to not ship that to your end users, instead of to fix it and then deliver it properly. Now, some App Store mechanics. Obviously, we are working a lot, being logged in App Store, Play Store, Firebase tooling to prepare the releases. And I will just go through different set of tools that they offer and you may utilize. So in Play Store, there is a set of tools called pre-launch reports that give you a nice overview of things like accessibility, crashers. They have a set of automated tests that will just click through your UI, but sometimes it might be beneficial, especially if you don't have update automated. They have things like privacy concerns. Another important thing is App Vitals, both on App Store and on Play Console. They are a section where all important metrics of your app are displayed, such as ANRs on Android, app size, stability, and startup. Installs, ratings, and reviews is another part of the app that you should utilize on a daily basis. You can see some trends and patterns from your users, from your ratings and reviews, and react to that. You can also integrate with review analysis tools. There are a lot of tools on the market right now that can go through all of your reviews and summarize some patterns and deliver it to you on an automated fashion. Learn the insights about store review process, policies about private APIs, app review guidelines, privacy and security, app permissions, app listing and metadata in the store, and app distribution mechanics. As an example, there are phased rollouts available both on App Store and Play Store. However, there is a difference when you open a percentage, when you open your new version to a percentage of users on Play Store, it is actually open up all for those users. Let's say you want to open your production version to 10% of your audience. When you set it so, 10% of your audience will see a new version in their Play Store. However, if you do the same on App Store, this means that only 10% will receive auto updates of your app. The new version will be available from the very beginning on the store. So there is a lot of things you'll learn as you go, and I encourage you to utilize all the tool set that they have. Some of them are very good. Feature flags. What to do if the feature that you're building takes longer than one release cycle. Let's say your release cycle is 1 week or 2 weeks, but that feature development takes months. I will explain how to implement the feature flag concept in your app. What is a feature flag? It is a technique that attempts to provide an alternative to maintaining multiple branches, or known as feature branches, such that a feature can be tested even before it's completed and ready for release. What problems we are trying to solve? Feature branches often create merge conflicts. You've been working on that feature branch for a long time. If you've not been updating and merging with your main branch, you will have a lot of merge conflicts. There have been a lot of things that you cannot predict when you want to merge that feature branch to your master. And then the code review becomes a nightmare. The reviewers need to spend a lot of their time to review that big bulk of code. Often, master branch is unstable after the merge. and a lot of regression testing needs to be performed and new bugs pop up. So the release is blocked. Instead, feature flag allow you to do atomic changes and to be pushed to master and shipped to the code base while the feature is invisible and or disabled or hidden from the user, allowing the release train to never stop. So here is an example of feature flag in the code, how it works. So basically, there is a registry of features in your project where all the features are listed as you add them. And then in your code, in that particular example on the left, the new transport of feature is enabled when the feature flag is turned on. So it does the check of a flag, and in case if it's enabled, then it returns a new transport. Else, it doesn't, it returns a null transport. On the example on the right side, it's a similar example of how to ship new layout. So considering you are changing design, you want to keep old design and new design for some time both together. And based on the feature flag state, you want to show one or another design. So let's see what the feature flag, other important stuff about feature flags. Try to keep all the feature flags in one place, in one registry. Keep your flag off while work is in progress, so it cannot be delivered to your internal beta testers. Turn on flag on demand. So add remote config. If needed, your local feature flag can be also subscribed to a remote config. It's another dimension of feature flags. While from remote server, later on, when your feature is in production, you can enable it or disable it, or enable it to some percentage of users. That helps release team. We are using feature flags a lot. We are setting them up on the remote side. Well, developers are responsible to set up local feature flags and work together with testers and their teams to ensure the feature is delivered with quality. We are responsible to set the remote config. Would one or another team require that the feature is open to some percentage of users or in specific regions or gradually? So when it's time to release to production, we set up the feature flag on the remote side, and then the feature is open gradually to our users, or open in specific regions, or open for specific numbers. So with that, we are orchestrating this feature development while being rolled out to production users. If you use a remote config server, and there are third-party servers that you can look for that are offering this functionality, make sure it supports parameters such as version number, app platform, country, percentage of users. One of the examples of feature flag orchestration tools that you can use is Firebase remote configs. It's quite a powerful tool that comes for free with Firebase set of tools that you can use to open features later on to your users while being in production. Feature flag lifecycle. Here on this diagram, I try to summarize how we in Truecaller see feature flag lifecycle to be implemented. So when developer starts developing a new feature, usually he keeps the feature flag on only for debug builds. So he himself can test it out, test new things that he's adding. And then also he is interacting with his tester in his team. And for that tester, in order to enable this feature, we've implemented a special APK. It's a site APK used only internally that opens a special menu of those feature flags where you can override the state of the feature flag in the code. So tester anytime can open the feature for himself only and test things out. When all this is done, then the feature is turned on for all alpha users in our release distribution. So all internal employees can test the feature before it goes to the next state. They can give some feedback, and the team is up to keep the feature for multiple alpha weeks in code while working on feature improvements. When everything is ready to be shipped, the team is enabling the local feature flag and informs the release team. At this stage, in case if the feature was also subscribed to a remote config, we set the all configuration remotely. We can set it up to be open from 100 for 100% of users straight from the beginning. We can open it up percentage-wise. We can open it up in special regions. We can keep it in beta only for multiple weeks to get it properly tested. And then finally, when shipping to production, we can also orchestrate with this feature flag as according to the feature rollout strategy that we've discussed with the team. It is possible to force features on alpha only. It is possible to keep features in beta without releasing to broad. All right. Now, my favorite topic, I'm gonna just mention quickly about some automation things that we've invested recently. So when you have multiple tracks and tabs, it is important to visualize version progression, so it is easy to navigate through all those versions and not to get lost in never-ending release train. Here we have built in a track dashboard that shows each of the track, alpha, beta, production, and its current state and time. And those useful links like link to crash reports, Jira tickets, status of metrics that we have, and feature flags, and of course, change log. It updates real time when there's a change in Play Store, and we have also hooked it up with our TV screens in the office, so everyone passing by can quickly check what's going on with that track. We have been building a release dashboard that includes all kinds of quality metrics that are pulled from different sources, from Jira, from Git. Those are regression bugs that we found, cherry picks that we had to do in the release branches, production incidents, internal bugs, stories delivered by one or another team. So it's kind of a tool that we use to find patterns over time and to improve both by release management and other business units. We are extracting different metrics for that and then aggregating them to plot on the graph. Recent project was to invest to app performance automation. The project had multiple states. We selected metrics. We defined the most common use cases. We automated those use cases. We are collecting all stats now regularly, day to day, and reporting them. And then in the end, we are building some graphs to detect any anomalies would they happen in release. At this slide, I was also encouraging you to set up all kind of automatic alerting that you have. We use Slack and Truecaller, and luckily there are a lot of integrations in Slack that you can hook up your process with. So there are some examples like obviously crash reporting. You can hook up crashes when they spike in one or another version. It will alert you so you can take some actions. You can get some alerts from your tracking management tool. We use Jira in Truecaller, so you can get things like ticket was open from test back to open. Maybe something happened during testing and we need to be aware of that as the feature might be already in production or in beta. Of course, you want to be subscribed to all the feature flag changes that you are setting or someone else is setting, so you understand where one or another feature is turned on and off. And events like pushing the version to production or beta, is it automated or not? It's nice to have alerts about that, so everyone is aware that it's time now to be conscious and to monitor things as they go live. And when you are working a lot with merges and cherry picks and pull requests, it's nice to automate that part. So at least for your release branches, you have a good understanding who is changing what, so you avoid any surprises found later on. All right, and that's probably my final slide. To sum up, setting up a release process can be a real game changer, as I told. It covers a lot of things, but it definitely requires some investment in tooling, process, and resources. You can start and use that presentation later on as a checklist of things that you are planning to cover, and you can start from a very simple things like implementing feature flags, for example, and creating a remote server that I think will benefit you as a business, and then set up the process around the frequent releases such as testing and publishing and continuous integration. Those, I think, are the essentials that will help you to deliver the app quite fast. You basically, yes, everyone benefits from that, stakeholders, developers, and end users, and it will help out to scale up your business for sure. And as for me and for people who I'm closely working with, release management is a fun thing to do. It has a lot of opportunities to be improved and to look for. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
That has been amazing. Thank you so much, Jossif. Definitely a pleasure to have you on board. And, you know, a wealth of experience that you have. Thanks for walking us through all about release management. So everyone who's listening or who's joined us today, now, you know, if you want to orchestrate app releases on scale, this is your person. And hopefully that, you know, you'll get to do it bigger and better. But thank you so much for joining us today and for everyone who's here.